Rising, Grand Rising. Just giving everyone a chance to come in this rising. We'll be starting shortly. Rising 8:15. We'll kick off the first story. Everything warming up and turned on for this Monday Rising show, and it's a goodie. Like I said, in 2 minutes, we'll be kicking off. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. How's everyone doing this rising? Peace Durant, peace Jay, peace Brittany Davis. Get everything loaded up on this side. Hope all is well. Hope all had a very blessed weekend. First up, we got what it says. First story is rising. Sovereign citizens now consist of all colors and creeds. It says the case made headlines last fall in the midst of Ferguson unrest. Two men with ties to the new Black Panther Party were charged with acquiring weapons in what was later revealed to be a plot to kill two public officials and blow up a police station. The two pled guilty in June and will be sentenced Thursday in a federal court in St. Louis. And in a lesser known twist, one of the African American defendants is an adherent of a movement that has its origins in racist and anti-Semitic beliefs. Elijah Ali Davis is a Morris national, an offshoot of the sovereign citizen movement. Say experts and authorities say the case illustrates the changing face of the movement, whose members believe the government is corrupt and out of control and has no jurisdiction over them. While today's movement remains largely white and still has some followers with racist leanings, a surge in the number of non-white sovereign citizens is underway across the country. And the biggest growth, experts says, is within the African American branch called Morris Sovereigns, which is dismantling its ideas to a whole new batch of recruits. It states it's a new world order, said J.J. McNabb, an author who for 2 decades has been tracking anti-government extremists, and Missouri is like ground zero. The common denominator between sovereign citizens and more left wing black separatists, McNabb said, is the sense of being powerless and having no voice. You have a group on the right wing people who feel voiceless, said McNabb, who also is a fellow at the George Washington University Center for Cyber and Homeland Security. You look at the Ames and Ferguson and you hear it a lot of the same things. They would not recognize it in each other, but they have a lot of the same complaints, which is that the world is changing and we don't get a say in and we don't get a say in it. Bob Harris, a former a former Federal Bureau of Prisons case manager who teaches law enforcement officers how to identify and handle domestic extremists, acknowledged the irony of a movement with white supremacist roots being joined by an African American group. But today's sovereigns, he said, aren't like those of previous decades. They are more reflective of the demographic of society today, he said. You have white people, you have African Americans, you have Asians, you have Native Americans. The sovereign citizen movement has really become a melting pot. And Moorish nationals are increasingly occupying a bigger portion of the pot, expert says. In the last several years, it exploded, said Corey Flowers, a sergeant with the Greensboro, North Carolina Police Department, who trains officers and elected officials on sovereign citizen tactics. A Kansas City area sovereign citizen told the Star that he's not all surprised to hear about African Americans taking up sovereign ideologies. It just shows that more and more people are fed up with the government, said Ken Amoon, who has filed dozens of motions and lawsuits around the metro area, accusing city and county officials of corruption, harassment, and violating his rights. Amoon said he welcomes African American sovereign citizens into the fold. The shift comes at a time when authorities say the loosely organized movement, which has been around in various forms for decades, is experiencing surge in violence, a trend the Star explored in a series of stories in April. The Department of Homeland Security assessment issued earlier this year said there have been 24 violent incidents associated with sovereign citizens since 2010, and the FBI now considers sovereign citizens extremists as comprise a domestic terrorist movement. It says moving in work. Harris said much of the more sovereign activity in the past 6 or 7 years has been concentrated along the eastern seaboard, but now he said it's spreading. The Ferguson riots brought a lot of them out of the woodwork, he said, and a lot of them from other parts of the country are coming into Ferguson, Kansas City, and St. Louis area to recruit. He said it's hard to tell exactly how many more sovereigns are scattered throughout the country. I would say their number nationwide probably total in a few thousands, he said. Estimates of traditional sovereign citizens run as high as 400,000, but it's still growing. Mark Pacage, Director of Investigation Research for the Anti-Defamation League, said he sees plenty of signs of more sovereign expanding in part because of social media. All sorts of more sovereign citizen videos on YouTube and links on Facebook have spread these ideas very quickly. It also explains why the movement has attracted a lot of younger people. Another reason, he said, is that sovereign citizens who were sent to prison in 1990s and early 2000s started teaching the tactics to others in prison, to other prisoners. We've seen evidence of this in Chicago, Detroit, and Baltimore, where even members of some street gangs have started adopting more sovereign citizen stuff, he said. Although most of their criminal activity has involved mortgage and property fraud, the proliferation is a concern, he said. Right now, they're more into the social, tongue-tied for a second. Start that over. Right now, they're more into the social upheaval movement rather than attacks on law enforcement. He said, but with those loose affiliations with the new Black Panther Party, who have called for the killing of police officers, that could change. In the past few years, more sovereigns have been in the news for incidents of squatting, a tactic in which They quietly move into foreclosed and empty houses, invoke their sovereign rights, and claim the property as their own. In one case, a man laid claim to a $6 million Bethesda, Maryland mansion in 2013, saying it was his because he was a Moorish American national. Lamont Butler produced paperwork that he crafted, citing, among other things, a 1787 peace treaty between the U.S. and Morocco. Moorish sovereigns often argue their beliefs in court. In April, Trey Worthingham, who claimed the state of Washington had no jurisdiction over him, was sentenced to 72 years for robbing two banks at gunpoint in Spokane in 2014. And in July, Eric Rogers received a 55 to 178-year sentence for raping, robbing, and beating 5 Pennsylvania women. In court, he refused to answer questions or sign documents and challenged the judge's legal authority to sentence him. It says Moorish origins. Moorish sovereigns take their name from the Moorish Science Temple of America, a religion founded in 1925 by Noble Drew Ali, said Spencer Dew, assistant professor of religious studies at Century College of Louisiana. He started this religion to say, look, God doesn't want us to be second-class citizens. God has a design for what the world should look like and what American democracy should look like. And we need a piece of that. We need full respect, Dew said. The Moors believe that African Americans settled in what is now the United States long before anyone else, including Native Americans, Dew said. Some have used the tenet and a 1787 treaty between the U.S. and Morocco to push sovereign ideology that they have indigenous rights and aren't subject to the U.S. laws. You said, however, that the majority of Moorish Science Temple followers do not adhere to sovereign ideology. I think it's a shame that all some folks know about Moorish science is some guy selling false paperwork on the internet, he said. That does an injustice to the deep history of an interesting religion and the Moors who are trying to worship God and be citizens. He said, because the Moorish Science Temple section is not unified, decisions on what to do about sovereign ideology are almost on a temple-to-temple bias. On a temple-to-temple basis. There are people in the Moorish Science Temple who try to warn followers to stay out of this, but some of the Moorish temples are almost taken over by Moorish sovereign citizens, he said. The home office of the Moorish Science Temple of America has a statement on its website denouncing the Moorish sovereign citizen movement. We declare that the Moorish Science Temple of America, Inc. is in no form or fashion a sovereign citizen movement or a tax protester movement. Consequently, our teachings are opposed to that ideology, he says. But Flowers, then Greensboro police sergeant, the authorities started seeing the Moorish sovereign movement just explode after the recession of 2008, and we haven't seen it slow down. Indeed, he said, he came across a Moorish sovereign last year on a flight to Oklahoma City where he was conducting a training session. He gets on a plane wearing a fez and sits right behind me, he said. And he was going to Houston to scout out recently foreclosed houses to create false deeds on. What's the chances of that? The man, Flowers said, is now in prison. Says the St. Louis case on November 21st, 3 days before the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney announced that a grand jury would not indict Darren Wilson and then Ferguson police officer who shot 18-year-old Michael Brown to death. Authorities arrested Davis and Brandon Orlando Baldwin. The men were originally charged with illegally purchasing firearms and later with the conspiracy to damage or destroy by use of explosives or building, vehicle, and other property, which included plans to kill Ferguson's police officer and the county prosecutor. Media reports at the time cited sources who said the defendants' plans also included planning a bomb on the observation deck of the Gateway Arch, a detail not mentioned in the indictment. The men pled guilty in June and faced 7 years in prison. U.S. Attorney Richard Calhan said in a statement after their guilty pleas that the disruption of this plot, coming as it did on the eve of the expected grand jury announcement, undoubtedly saved lives. Luckily for all of us, we'll never know just how many. Davis, 23, has a Kansas City connection. At a hearing in June, he told the judge he had attended 3 years at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, majoring in economics. Davis was featured in the March 2012 Tattoo of the Week column in University News, the student newspaper. His tattoo, which covered most of his black, depicted a panther attacking an eagle. A university spokesman said a student by that name attended UMCKC from 2010 to 2012. Davis explained his sovereign beliefs in a video posted on YouTube in November 2013. I am Elijah Ali, native of North America and Free Moorish National of Northwest MX. He said on the video, do you find yourself being oppressed? Are you tired of being taxed? Are you tired of being harassed and assaulted and threatened by police simply because you're black? There is a solution, and that solution is called nationality. Davis said that in April 2013, he filed his name correction and nationality with the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds. Because of that, he said, I am no longer a slave to the matrix. Thus, I am no longer obligated to pay taxes. I am no longer obligated to follow certain policies and ordinance that may be enforced by the same police who are supposed to be here to protect and serve. On the video, Davis displayed a photo of his ID card, something sovereign citizens often use in place of traditional identification. It listed his race as human and his nationality as Moorish American. Authorities in St. Louis area continue to pay close attention to the Moorish movement. On August 21st, the St. Louis FBI sent a notice to law enforcement officers alerting that a possible Moorish sovereign citizen had been shot by police and that black extremist groups were among those that had incited violence in other cities. The bulletin obtained by the Star referred to Mansour Ball Bay, an 18-year-old African-American who was shot to death August 19th during the execution of a search warrant in St. Louis. Police said Ball Bay pointed a gun at officers after being told to stop and drop his weapon. The shooting reignited clashes between residents and police. A national spokesman for the Moorish Science Temple of America said Ball Bay was a member of Subordinate Temple Number 5 in St. Louis, but was absolutely not a Moorish sovereign citizen. That's actually a teaching that the Moorish Science Temple of America is dramatically opposed to, said Brother Azim Hopkins Bay. And others note that as the sovereign movement continues to grow, most followers today aren't aware of its racist roots. Even though the movement was started by white supremacists, what they focused on were anti-government ideas. So with each subsequent decade, white supremacists have become an even smaller and less important part of the sovereign citizen movement. And that, he said, has made it easier for African Americans and others to become sovereign citizens because it's all about the government. This is a short article release dealing with the sovereign citizen movement and how it's viewed and how the government has it viewed already. I'm finna post the article, the link to the article in the chat real quick. So anyone who's interested on the story, you can have it for yourself to look up and stay on with it. There we go, post it in the chat. Y'all give me a moment. I'm loading up the next stories. Okay, post that article up in the chat. How y'all think about that? They're letting you know that the U.S. government already started labeling particular groups. Post it up there one more time, just in case anybody come in later and grab it. Okay, next stories are pulling up. Give me less than a second. No. Grand Rising, we're back. Pulling up our next story. This rising, it says the state was proclaimed a sovereign nation located in Florida, founded in 1799 and led by William a loyalist veteran of the American Revolutionary War who lived among the Muskogee. Envisioned uniting the American Indians of the Southeast with the expansion of the United States. Those enjoyed the support of Muskogee, Seminole, and several bands. Muskogee used this state as eventually growing to encompass Cherokee, Upper and Lower Creeks, Choctaw. They born hold the commission in the Maryland Loyalist Battalion at age 14. His rank roughly equivalent to the moment of the rank today. Thus has led to rumors of his having been offered at 15%. Of Maryland Loyalists as part of the provision garrison stationed at Pensacola, where he was stripped of his rank. Please note that according to the article, William Augustus Battalion at the age of 13, he fled north, living among the Muskogee of Appalachia and Apalachicola, becoming fluent in the language of Cherokee and Haiti Muskogee. And Pinty Muskogee wide, coming here from Muskogee chiefdom. He led a band of Lower Creek warriors at the Battle of Pensacola in 1781, a period when he developed a lifelong imminent with the Upper Creek chief Alexander. Gradually after the war, he relocated to the Bahamas, where he was courted by Governor Lord Dumont, fought to break the monopoly of Anton Leslie and Company over the Indian, and allowed him to return to the Muskogee as an agent of a rival company. During this period, he developed his idea of an American Indian state. He failed to capture Fenton St. John's store and became a from Spanish authorities. Spending the next few years between Nova Scotia, the Bahamas, England, and the villages along the lower Chattahoochee River Basin. Gained support for a free state of Muskogee, assuring the Lower Creeks and Seminoles of British support. It states on the 16th of January, 1792, Bowles led a large band of Muskogee warriors who captured and looted the Panton Lesbian Company store and the Poseidon of San Marcos de Alba. He tried to negotiate with the Spanish for the establishment of a Muskogee state, but the Spaniards captured him instead. The Spanish wanted to remove him as far away from Florida as they could, and imprisoned him in Cuba, Madrid, and Manila in the Philippines. While being returned to Spain, Bowles accepted and seized command of the ship to Africa. He eventually made his way back to Florida after stopovers in England and Nassau to gather his British support. Arriving in 1799, Bowles made himself Director General and Commander-in-Chief of the Muskogee Nation. And on October 31st, he issued a proclamation declaring the 1796 treaty between Spain and the United States void because it conferred sovereignty over Florida. The Treaty of San ceded all of West Florida for the 31st parallel to the United States. He denounced the treaties Alexander McGillivray had negotiated with Spain and the U.S. Threatened to declare war against the U.S. unless it returned Muskogee lands that he claimed it had taken illegally, or issued a death sentence against George Washington's Indian agent Benjamin Harper. He defied American planters by welcoming runaway slaves and enjoying their support on black criminals. The article states, Bow had the support of the criminals in Lower Chattahoochee Creek because of his generous supply of gunpowder, and of his promise to get more when he captured the Panton Leslie store. Spanish attacked looking to relocate the capital to the Indian town of Miccosukee on the Lake Miccosukee, northeast of present-day Tallahassee, ruled by Mico Kinchik, his father-in-law and most powerful ally. Several English adventurers from the Bahamas served as the government administrators. Bowles built a 3-ship navy and attacked Spanish ships off the coast of Florida. In August 1800, Spanish armed force set out to destroy Muskogee, but was lost in the swamp. On the 5th of January, 1802, Bowles led a large force of Seminoles, the Muskogee, Miccosukee, Black Seminoles, fugitive slaves, white pirates, and Spanish deserters from Pensacola, and led siege to San Marcos, but was forced to retreat after the arrival of several Spanish ships. The Treaty of Amiens in March 1802 briefly ended hostilities between Britain and France and Spain, and news of the ceasefire left Bowles discredited. The Seminoles and Comanche signed a treaty with Spain in August. By 1803, the U.S. and Spain turned against Bowles, who no longer enjoyed British support. Benjamin Hawkins laid a trap for him at a tribal council at the town of Poncheby, where Bowles was captured and delivered to the Spanish government in Pensacola. He was imprisoned in Morro Castle in Havana, where he died in 1805. The state of Muskogee demonstrated Spain's inability to control the interior of Florida. It goes on further to state, in 1818, the town of Muskogee was destroyed by General Andrew Jackson's army during the First Seminole War. Give me 1 second. Right back. Grand Rising, Michael George. Peace, peace. I was just going through the article. In this one, I'll repost this up. It's the state of Muskogee. Grand Rising LJ3. Sticking with the 1800. Have our next rising story. Give me a moment, pulling everything up on it. I posted the third article up as well. If anybody download it, go through it and reread it for themselves. I have it for their own collection. It's posted there now. And then it's 8:52 a.m. on this Monday's Rising. And we let off with all colors and creeds. And that'll be the first one in there. Basically, letting you know that the United States government, how it views how they already have them under investigation, and the dangers of aligning yourself with particular groups. You know, I reposted that too. So if anyone wants to read up on that, about listening back to the show, it's there for you. Go back through to see what he's doing again. Grand Rising Peace. Looks like we're back at this conundrum again, relative, where we dig out these stories in history that's letting us know who we are, where we stand, what was going on. Showing you details on what was really happening in the nation at these times that we did, you know? Kind of crazy that they have it in there, right? It takes so many years for some of these stories to be released, for people to pass them on. You know, that's why I always say again, but that's here, that hear the call, that's activated. Let's make it our job, our mission to make sure that this stuff is never forgotten again. That moving forward, that the history, our story that we're writing and creating for ourselves as we move along, never get distorted. That the narrative never switches on us again. We have to make sure that we do our due diligence. Beyond the point of pointing the fingers and passing blame. Now we're all able-bodied, all capable beings need to come aboard. It's time to move. Change doesn't happen unless you change. We can't sit here arguing, fighting, yelling, and screaming to the top of our lungs about change. We ourselves are not willing to change. You know? I mean, let's think about it. How does change happen if one refuses to change? There is no change. That's no conflict. You know? Out. Pulling together and being responsible enough on what it is that we have to be accomplishing here. We know what it is. We know what our job is. There's no reason to be afraid that there's nothing to fear anymore. Everything that can be done to people that has been done. The problem is we must remember who we are. We must remember our responsibility. We must remember our promise. Doing this hard. Nothing can be done to you unless you allow it to. But we have to stop allowing it. And before we sit here running out thinking that we're checking somebody else, when are we gonna start being the grown-ups in the room, being able to stand in front of the mirror and check ourselves before we even speak amongst the world? When are we gonna take the time to sweep in front of our own porches and stop worrying about the neighbor's porch? What is it gonna take for us to make home first? And I'm one that don't want to believe that we're so screwed that we need an act from the creator or practically the wiping out of the planet for us to wake up. We ain't that far gone, my relatives. And stop waiting for everybody to change. Everybody's not going to change. Not meant to be that way. We must reach out and find the like-minded ones. We must reach out and find the ones that's doing the work, that's moving the boulders, paving the roads for the future generations to come. The days of talking are done. When are people going to start taking responsibility for the actions that you can control? I mean, when? How many stories are we going to dig up and read and look to see that a lot of the problems when we start coming together? Are we going to sit back here and pass the buck and be like, oh, it ain't my problem, it ain't my fault, and pass it to our children's children, then have the audacity to our face to complain about it? Really? So I ask each individual, as sure as the Creator gave us a new week to start off with a wonderful, bright rising, let's start back being more aware of our choices and how they affect our community and our environments. Let's stop turning the other cheek when it's calls to unite in time for action. Let's do not let the gift of this Monday pass us without making a positive change on where we reside, lay our heads, walk with our feet. We all have some greatness in us that we can give back. We all have a reason to. Don't need an excuse. Let's just do. Grand Rising TMH.
Grand Rising everyone. Everyone's doing well.
I don't know if you were speaking. I didn't hear anything. So your mic come off.
Can you hear me? Hold on.
There we go.
Grand Rising, I can hear you. Everyone's doing well. All right, cool.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
About to go choke LJ. Came in here, hit the mute button on me. I can't hear nothing no more.
Uh-oh. How you doing this rising?
Oh, pretty good. Like I said, can't complain. Heart still beating.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
You just started this rising with a couple of 3 short stories. Mainly with the Sovereign Citizens. Now consists of multiple races and creeds. It was an interesting story.
Yeah. Sorry. And yeah, it was interesting that that basically the FBI is giving the credit to a group that was originally a hate group that that had some anti-Semitism involved with them. That's definitely interesting.
Yeah, that stood out to me. That wow, that a racist hate group that mainly hated us more than anybody else somehow changed the narrative to get us to be the majority of the people signing up for this foolishness. Yeah. Next interesting story was the freed slaves depart from Africa. They said February 6, 1820 is the date the first ones left.
That's when they celebrate Juneteenth, ain't it? Or is it somewhere around that time, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, I believe so. It is around that time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. For another time that we supposedly left someplace that we never seen.
Well, at least I ain't never seen it anyway.
I know I haven't. I've seen some posters, postcards, pictures, but yeah.
And what was the other news story about?
I'm pulling that one back up real quick. Give me 1 second.
Peace to the chat. Peace, LJ Free. Let me pull up the chat so I can see everybody and wish them a grand rising. Give me a minute.
Okay, third story was the state of Muskogee, Miccosukee. I have different pronunciations. Basically, the story how they set up a sovereign Indian nation in Florida back in the 1700s, around the same time, because what America got founded in 1776. You had this dude out there in Florida working and fighting with the Indians. Well, they tried to tell the story that way, but when I read the story, it seems like more that he was going to do the same thing that Spain and them did: work with the Indians, help them get some stuff. Then once they get so far, I could be wrong, but you know. But think about it. When you read the story, America was founded 1776, right?
Yeah, that's what they tell us.
This man was founding Indian towns, well, sovereign Indian nations in 1799. He was wanted by Spain, France, and the British. They say William Augustus Bowes, 1763 to 1805, was also known as Esjaka, his Muskogee name. Yeah, he even became chief at one time in the story of him.
Now, did you does everyone out there know the difference between a sovereign nation and sovereign citizenship? Because there is a difference.
Yes. Anybody, not all at one time. Do we know the difference between the two?
There is a difference.
Grand Rising Macadon 1. Grand Rising I Am Flying Squirrel. Larissa Miller, Grand Rising, peace. On teammates, they said they can't hear you too well. Adjusted your EQ and stuff. Try now.
Mic check. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Is that better? Out there in the chat. Yeah, they said it's better. All right, I got you adjusted on it, man.
Cool. I was asking if anybody know the difference between a sovereign nation and sovereign citizenship.
Any ideas out there in the chat? Let us know. Think you got them on the edge of their seats this rising.
Look, I'm trying to log in so I can see the chat. Look, it's not one of them questions where you can't look it up or see what the definition is, but something to definitely think about because the last newsletter you read was talking about Indian tribes that were part of a sovereign nation, and then your first article was about sovereign citizenship. So they almost sound synonymous or sound like they're similar, but they're totally different. Okay, so let me ask the question another way. Can a citizen be sovereign?
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Go ahead.
Giving the chat, giving them a little bit of enthusiasm.
Can a citizen be sovereign? Is the question. Okay, let me ask it a different way. Can a citizen of any nation be sovereign? And if so, how?
You guys, so if we don't sign up for anything other than being human, we're pretty much right unless we can shoot good. LJ Free said if they are that would make them homeless. I am Flying Squirrel said citizens are us property. Those are the answers you got so far.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Can individuals that belong to a nation be sovereign? And don't confuse sovereign with having diplomatic immunity because they're not the same.
Yep, totally different.
So I can see you to look up what the definition of sovereign is, huh? So how sovereign is defined. So I'm going ahead and pull it up right now. Because these are things that we need to start understanding. And the reason why I'm asking questions instead of making statements, because I want people to think. And what we need to start doing as a people is to start asking questions instead of just answering.
Yep.
Because for so many years we were taught to read for comprehension and not read for understanding. Though many of us are awake, aware, or conscious, many of us are still reading for comprehension and not asking the right questions.
Let's see, we got someone says Jay Saskahana said no, he is a citizen. LJ Free said no. Durant, or you're homeless or sovereign, that's the only choice. Before was any of these laws, it was people and territories respecting the divine gift of higher intelligence. If we can get back to that, everything else is going to be a track, wordplay. They feel the feel of the day. Jay said nope, you're a citizen of that nation. And that's where we at so far with the answers so far.
Sure.
You still got them waiting?
Yeah, I'm about to pull. I'm about to pull up. I'm pulling up the etymology. Then I'm gonna read the definition.
Uh-oh, he done bought the backhoe this rising, y'all. He ain't come with the shovel.
And let me look. I'm not gonna give you my I'm not gonna give you my understanding of it. I'm gonna give you the way it's understood, so that we all can be on the same sheet of music. Okay. According to the etymology, sovereign, which is a noun, because they got the noun and adjective, so I'll read the noun first. Coming from late 1300s, superior ruler master, from Old French, sovereign, sovereign lord ruler. Noun, use of adjective meaning highest supreme chief, meaning gold coin worth 22, I guess that's 22 S, 6D. First recorded late 15th centuries. Value changed in 1817 to £1. Okay. Sovereign, the adjective. Early 14th century, great superior supreme, from Old French, sovereign, highest supreme chief, from Vulgar Latin, superanus, chief principal. Source also a Spanish, soprano, Italian, soprano, from Latin super over, uh, root power, upper over, spelling influenced by folk etymology association with rain. Milton spelled it sovereign, Sovran, as though from Italian sovrano, of remedies or medicines, potent in a high degree from the late 14th century. So the noun is basically superior ruler master, sovereign lord ruler, highest is supreme chief, and then also meaning a gold coin worth 22. I guess I don't know if that's 22 shekels or it's just got 22 S behind it, or and then it's got $6. First recorded in late. I don't know if the D stands for dollar. That's what I'm gonna say. First recorded in late 15th century. Value changed in 1817 to £1. Isn't that how they? Isn't that how they measure money today in England? A pound?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. And then you have the adjective great superior supreme, from Old French sovereign highest supreme chief, from vulgar Latin superanus principal chief. So sovereign means principal, chief principal. Okay, associated with reign. Now that's the etymology, but that's not how we're being taught to use it today. So what does good old fashioned Webster have to say about sovereign?
Oh, Webster.
All right, sovereign. As we all know, there are multiple entries in the dictionary, so I'm just going to read them as I see them. Definition of sovereign: entry 1 of 2. One possessing or held to possess supreme political power of sovereignty. One that exercises supreme authority within a limited sphere. An acknowledged leader, arbiter. And number 2, it says any of various gold coins of the United Kingdom. Sovereign, meaning superlative in quality, of the most exalted kind, supreme, having generalized curative powers, of an unqualified nature, unmitigated, sovereign contempt, having undisputed audacity, paramount, possessed of a supreme power, unlimited in extent, absolute, enjoying autonomy, independent, related to characteristics of being a supreme ruler. And it's interesting how when you look at all these definitions, you get to the latter entries, and it gives you a brief description of that, where it says autonomy and independent, and everything else deals with being a supreme ruler or having the highest quality. So let's look up sovereignty. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Sovereignty. Now,
Yeah, Jimmy.
it says obsolete supreme excellence or an example of it. Number two, A says supreme power, especially over a body, politic. B, freedom from external control, autonomy, controlling influence. One that is sovereign, especially in an autonomous state.
A ton.
An autonomous state, one that is sovereign, especially an autonomous state. So, can an individual be an autonomous state?
If I'm on my natural land that I sprung from, wouldn't that be my autonomous state?
Then you would be on your autonomous. You would be on your autonomous state, or on your autonomous land where you're not subject to laws other than the laws that are part of the land that you belong to. Like for instance, when the United States military goes somewhere and something happens to a soldier and the soldier does something, they're taken about authorities, and then the authorities then turn them over to their branches of military,
Yeah.
to their leader.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're in another country, the first things they tell you, and if you read your passport, they tell you, and when you go out of the country, the first place that you're supposed to go to is the embassy. Why?
Because if something go down, that's who's gonna protect your behind.
Right, because that allows you to be only subject to the rules of that state or country that you belong to.
Yep.
So you only can have sovereignty if there's representation on that land of another nation, meaning an embassy, or some land where you go where you're only subject to those laws. But even then, you're not sovereign because you don't have absolute control and power over everything that goes on your own land. Even on your own land, you have rules you have to follow. If you think
Yep.
that's not true, then check out what's going on with the Creek Nation and with the Cherokee Nation. Why? Because they're being judged and ruled by the laws that they've created.
We can make it simpler than that. If you don't believe it, follow the law of nature. Go out there and slap that line and see what happens. I'll wait. Bet you pull back enough for breaking the rule. Just had to put a visual out there real quick. Quick visual.
And Free asks a question. She says, "How would any land, occupied or free, ever allow a sovereign citizen on the land based on definition?"
Facts. You gonna come to my home and gonna create a definition that you want me to abide by in my home.
So hopefully this helps as far as the definition of the understanding of sovereign and sovereign citizenship versus a sovereign nation. So the answer, so basically, based off of what I'm reading, and please, if you have some information that's different, please by all means, please bring it to us. Let us know, because I'm not saying we are 100% right. I'm just letting you know what I see, what I read, and what I know based off of my
Yeah.
experience. We all don't have the same experiences.
Nope.
Just letting you know what I've seen and what I've witnessed.
That's it. That's how it's interpreted, how we're viewing it, and I concur. We're not saying it's 100% the surefire way. You know, if you have something that state different, you can show us different. You're more than welcome to send it to us. Let's talk about it.
Look, and what I and what I'm hoping is the information that you're showing. Please show that it stands up in any situation, not just on paper. And what I mean by that, because you got people that's going to be watching it. If you're posting some information and it's supposed to be allowing them to be sovereign, then this should not allow them to get arrested or to be subject to the laws of a land. And that's all I'm saying. Because we have to be very careful of what we post and what we put out. Because I don't know if people are paying attention. Go do some research. Start looking up the sovereign citizenship movement or whatnot, and the FBI are connecting sovereign citizenship movements to hate crimes. They're connecting them to gangs.
Yep.
They're connecting them to the Black Panther movement, the new Black Panther movement, who have been accused and found guilty of committing at least 6 to 12 crimes that are violent. So if you are, as an individual, stating or looking up sovereign citizenship and something of that nature, just know that the FBI is looking for all these individuals, because what they're saying, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I'm just letting you know what to look out for. They're saying that all this stuff got started, it started ramping up, and started moving over to our community once the bottom dropped out of the housing market around 2008. Again,
Yeah.
this is what they're saying.
I mean, let's even break that down. Let's because you know how I am with it. I like to be direct with it. I mean, come on. Let's talk relatives just rising. All right. People got jammed up in financial situations in 2008. People started coming to our communities and neighborhoods and channels that we were dealing with online, telling you that they can make the credit go away, that you don't have to pay for stuff, and it sounded good. And this is where we have to be honest. A lot of our people jumped on that, and a lot of our people got jammed up. And all we're saying is be cautious and be careful, because they knew since then what was going to happen. The FBI and them already got mechanisms in place and been recording people and label them as extremists. And even more, do the research to find out that the so-called thing that they're trying to get you to follow was started by the so-called white supremacist group. So let's pause right here for a second. A group creates a thing that tells you to go against the government, that you can use all these papers and stuff to make yourself free. Then the same group that hates your particular set of people, making sure that you're the leading group that's picking up this stuff right now. Are the wheels turning? Are we seeing a picture? Are we not going to forget from the story? It says the majority of these people learned from people that were in prison. So you're locked up in prison, but you're going to teach me how I can get myself out of prison. Are the wheels turning?
And that's what I mean by we need to ask more questions. Because it's easy for you to tell me something. I mean, it's easy for me to tell you something. If I have enough knowledge and I use the right wording and I say the right information, I sound really good. Until you start asking me enough questions to where I have to start going into detail. And then when you start asking me to show proof, now I really have to do something that's a little bit different than accept what you're telling me. And again, I'm not saying I will always say this. I'm not saying that no one's a sovereign citizen and that it's not working. What I am saying is I have no proof, nor have I ever seen any proof in real time that a sovereign citizen exists. That don't mean they don't exist. I just haven't seen it. That's like me telling you, or me having an argument with you, and you've seen Bigfoot, or you've seen Sasquatch, or you've seen the Yeti, or you've seen the UFO.
Yeah, I can't tell you what you've seen. I'm like Tim Major. I never seen it in my life. The courts haven't seen it yet in their lifetime. I mean,
but if you show me one, then I can't deny what I've seen. I may be able to explain it away or try to explain it away, because now it's up to what you all call bones, the eye test. Now it's up to me to determine with the eye test what it is. But if I haven't seen anything, then please don't get upset with me for saying I haven't seen it. Again, I will never say it don't exist. I just haven't seen it. So please bring me some information, bring me some proof, and I will be more than happy to investigate it and do the research on it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the information that we're providing is absolute. I'm just saying we have to be very careful with the things that we're speaking, because I'll put it to you this way: start doing some research. The first act of understanding law is understanding what Homeland Security did and how they are categorizing and how they are authorized to treat terrorists,
Yeah, people keep
specifically
forgetting the
domestic
Patriot
terrorists.
Act. The Patriot Act is still in effect. It was never taken down. And I agree with Brother Thomas this rising. All we're saying is research anything before you move into it. Anybody can put up a video and word something. Come on, we see salesmen every day. They sell us poison on TV, and we know it's poison, and we still go eat it and drink it. Let's stop being naive, my relatives. All we're saying is that take the time out to do due diligence to research this information, because I will guarantee you this: you will find out that this same sovereign movement started from racial ideology people. You will find out that this same practice that we're getting swept up in right now was designed to harm you. Once you start doing your research, once you do your research, you'll see that the courts and organizations are waiting on you. But hey, like I said, just do your research. I'm not
Grand
gonna
Rising,
do.
Grand Rising Capital, Tony. And another thing too, if you're going to be sovereign, you have to have your own currency. If you're going to be
Yes,
sovereign, you're going to have your own police force. If you're going to be sovereign, you're going to have your own military. And if people are doing the research and read the Constitution like they say they are, the moment you stop militarizing, you're going to end up like
an
who, Tony?
act of war.
Okay.
Come on, let's keep it 100. Why do you think in the history of history nobody's tried to put up a so-called sovereign nation on this land? Because it's an act of war to the nation that's already on the land. So I can come into your house. Everybody that's listening to my voice right now, I can walk in the house that you own and set up shop in your living room, and you ain't gonna do nothing about it. Let's think about this, y'all. So that means everybody who listening is okay with me coming in your house and I'm gonna set up shop in the middle of your living room. But I'm sovereign, so you're gonna be okay with that. Just let that marinate for 5 minutes. Let marinate on that. That's all I'm saying. Let's put this in practical terms. Let's start seeing how these things are applied. Because anything look good and sound good on paper. But can you actually put in an application to where it benefits people in real time? See, the days of the hocus pocus got to go away, my relatives. We got to make sure that we're putting practical solutions on the table. We have Aboriginal brothers and sisters hurting today that need practical solutions now. So the hocus pocus needs to stop.
And if you read, and if you go down and read the whole article, what you'll find, just like when it comes to dealing with the IRS, is that because they are the people are undermanned, you can actually submit this paperwork, and because of the rate that people are submitting it, there are people actually getting through the cracks. But it's like anything, you get away with something once, you're gonna do what? You're gonna do it again.
Mhm.
Eventually, you're gonna get caught, and when you get hemmed up, they're gonna get you for everything that you've done prior, not just for the time that you got caught.
I mean, basically, yeah. If you go deep in it, it tells you how some people get away with it because they're understaffed and some paperwork do slide through. It doesn't mean it worked. That was the uh-oh.
So they have created a special department specifically and exclusively for this. So
Yeah, that's what you got to remember too. Now they have a special department, a cyber unit, a physical unit that's there just for this. That's all they do now. And then, like they said, they're trying to figure out why would a group that was created to go against you. I mean, there's a lot more in the history. Maybe one day we'll do the whole build on it, but it was pretty long and steep. So people know where it really stemmed from. We drop a little breadcrumb. What if I told you your same Moorish sovereigns are your same UFO people from back in the days? Let that marinate for a while.
Not to be confused with the Moorish Science Temple.
Yes, the Moorish Science Temple and the Moorish sovereigns, they're two different things. Even the Moorish Science Temple are releasing statements letting you know that they're totally different, that they don't even teach that, that they tell you better leave that alone. Don't let the words fool you. Know what you're investing your time into. Know what you're standing behind, what you're representing. I mean, really know. If you're going to give your time to something, your life energy to something, wouldn't it make sense to take the time out to do your full discovery on it so you know at the end of the day? If they're telling you ignorance is no excuse to the law and possession is 9/10 of the law, let that marinate.
And there was a question that was brought up one time that says, if you are a sovereign nation, how do you expect to be paid? Because if you're sovereign, that means you have to have a rate of exchange to where the money that you're using now will allow you to do what you need to do. So what's your currency exchange? If you expect to get paid from this nation and you're sovereign, or the nation you represent is sovereign.
What's backing your currency exchange? I mean, do you think you're going to set up a sovereign nation and it's going? I'm going to say the scenario again. You're basically saying I can come in your home and set up shop in your living room, and you're not going to have no complaints whatsoever. That's why I keep saying, let's think about this. You're going to make yourself a sovereign nation. Where you going to get your water from? Where you going to get your food from? You sovereign. You can't use no resources from here. Who you doing deals with? Where's your political structure? Where's your government, the government alliances? First of all, I mean, you a new nation. What, a nation of what, 3 people? You probably get you a couple of homies to follow you. Think they're gonna let you set up in another foreign nation can invade you and take you over? Now you have, I mean, come on, let's put this in practical sense, man.
Another thing that you may want to start doing some research on is recent chiefs of certain what they call those civilized tribes that have been indicted and removed because they are violating their own constitution, claiming they live on a reservation and living in France, Europe. I think, didn't Dane Calloway do a video about that one time about how a lot of these chiefs are coming under scrutiny? Now, think about this. They have sovereignty, meaning they have their own laws that they're judged by. But the moment that you leave the land that you're on,
you're no longer protected. So let's think, people. So that's what I mean. Is that people do have these talks, get rah-rah, have these speeches, but do not apply reality to it. You'll be sovereign. That's just right now. Just like we have American Indian brothers and sisters. They're sovereign on their own land. On their own land. But the moment you step off, that's just like traveling. The rules that you set in your house don't mean diddly squat to me and mine. So I'm going to give it to you in street terms. Basically, if you believe that you can pull this off, then you telling me I can come in your house and set up shop and you bet not open your mouth. Now tell me where they do that at.
So there's a great question from Lieber's son. He says, did they not start a nation where nations already existed on this land? That's a great question. So I'm gonna do what I talk about. So the question is not did they start a nation where nations already existed on this land. The question, more appropriate question, would be how were they allowed to do that? How were they allowed to start a nation on top of a nation? Did we give them something, tell them something, showed them something that allowed them to do that. How did it start? What did we do?
That's the $1,000,000 question.
What blame do our ancestors as a people have
To
in
take.
allowing this to happen? Some of us know. A lot of us know. Many of us know.
Anybody come over here and take anything? Some people had some partnerships and some deals were made. It's time to start facing reality, my relatives. You can't take nothing from nobody. I don't care how much work you think you can use. You still can't take anything. Somebody has to be willing to give. Whether they quit, give up, I don't care how you want to word it. It's still a choice.
There's nothing new under the sun, and what was done will be done again. I'm gonna give you an example. You're right, paper genocide. But how was the paper genocide done?
They needed help.
We have to do a better job of asking questions and asking for specifics, because
yes,
you're absolutely right. But the question is, how was it done? How was the paper genocide allowed? Who was the party, or who were the parties
involved? Who was involved? You have to start asking yourself, who really had something to gain? Who had something to lose?
Because your answers are right. So I'm not saying your answers are wrong. What I'm saying is we need to get a better understanding
of what really happened, on what parties were really at play.
So basically, is it safe to say that treaties and constitutional agreements or agreements between two parties are called contracts, right?
Yeah, there got to be a third party. There's always a third party in a contract. Come on.
That's what I was getting to. There's got to be a third party.
And that's what we mean. That step back for a second, and let's start looking at this realistically. All this paperwork, all this signing going on, a lot of people miss the point. There must be a third party. Even when you see the census, and I'm going to drop this little gem and leave it like this. The census tell you it's 3 white persons, 3 persons of color, and slaves. Stop using your eyes. Stop using the eyes. Stop using the eyes. Remember, we talk every day. White and black, their statuses. Stop using your eyes, my relatives.
Who gave us the names that our indigenous ancestors have? Who called them Cherokees? What language is Cherokee? What Cherokee tribe or confederation are you referring? Which tribe or band belonged to those Cherokee wars? Who was the third party involved in that Cherokee war? What part did they play?
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you pick out. There's the third parties there.
The census has a lot to do with it, because if you look at the date when those Cherokee wars took place, you'll start to see some things. Things will start to open up.
Yeah. When y'all study these timelines, start putting them together. Line up the census with the wars. Line up the migration patterns with the census and the wars. Notice how people get certain classifications and statuses at particular time. And what was the census really for again? It was for the allotment of land.
And representation.
Representation, that's really what the census was for. I'm going to say it again. To contrary belief, the popular belief, we will say, the census was developed with the purpose of representation and for land allotment. You don't have to take my word for it. I can pull it back up from the other show. We can put it back out there. But we say again, for representation and land allotments. So now start asking yourself, who needed representation? Fill in the blanks.
And why does it keep saying? Why are we always told believe? Don't
Nothing we
believe what
see.
you see. Don't believe anything that you see.
Mm-hmm. Don't believe nothing you see.
Well, one of the sayings is believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. But you gotta look at where that came from.
Uh-huh.
We'll put it like that.
The eyes will fool you. But they tell you the hands are quicker than the eyes, y'all. Apply it. The hands are a lot quicker than the eyes.
How does magic work?
Mm-hmm.
Misdirection, right?
Misdirection of wordplay. So when you're reading the census, take your eyes off. Remove your sight when you're reading the census. Remove all color. There's a reason why they taught us to put these words with color. Remember, in the 1800s, Negroes had rights. Ain't that right there, TMH?
Yes, Negroes did have rights.
Negroes had representation in the 1800s. I know some people be out there like, oh, what you talking about? Y'all forgot. Reconstruction? Who was running the South? Wasn't we politicians in the South? Senators and congressmen in the South? So we had representation. We even had the right to vote. True indeed, in the South, they made it hard in certain places. But we had representation and had things. Then you had free white persons who had representation. Are we warming up out there?
So there's one group that did not have representation until 1920. But they needed our help
to get it. Now, see, we ain't finna do it all for you. We ain't finna tell you the answers now. Y'all gonna have to do some homework, man. You said the 1920s. What happened in the 1920s?
All you gotta do is do some research on laws that were passed, acts that were passed in 1920. Because if you go back and remember from the previous show, there were some significant changes in classifications according to the census. Because there was a new group of people that got representation that never had representation before. Ever.
Ever.
I would love to talk to some of the tribal members that are aware of these wars. Because here's one thing we also have to understand. If you're not talking to actual tribes to get their portion, to get their viewpoint of the story, especially when you're talking about these treaties and the way these treaties are written up. If you're not talking to people whose tribes existed during that time, you're only getting one side of the story. It's just like a contract, there's three sides of every story. My version, your version, and the truth. Meaning being able to have an objective view versus a subjective view, correct? There are lots of tribes out here that are willing to talk and share their story if you would just go out and ask them. OJ Free says, "Oh, I know." Yeah, I'm sure when you was in school, you were a model pupil and a model student. But don't give the information. It's something they need to go look it up for themselves. We'll talk about it because it's important. We need to start getting better at asking questions. It's not just important to know that paper genocide was done. We need to know how was the paper genocide done? Whom were the parties involved? And how are we going to be able to undo it?
What LJ Free said out there from the chat, she said, "Who was the last group to get the rights to vote?" $1 million question is rising. Who was the last group to get the right to vote?
And I'll give you a hint. It was not the African American or the black. Well, excuse me. It wasn't the African American. And it wasn't the Negro.
Yeah, because what? Negro had to vote ever since the 1800s?
Yep.
Ah, look that up. We ain't losing y'all out there this rising. Y'all still with us? Y'all still with us? The question is rising is, what group was the last to get the right to vote?
And as easy as it is for you to miss it now, Michael George said Jewish. As easy it is for you to miss this group of people, we still overlook this group of people because we make assumptions. We make huge assumptions.
Stop using the eyes. LJ Free, I can send you a link if you want to come talk about it now.
Antonio said technically.
No, that's not it.
Macadon is on it. Macadon won.
And Macadon won. You, my friend, have the right answer. Yes, women. Now, by y'all hearing that, rethink all of this real quick. Rethink. Pull back the veil. Oh my goodness.
So if they didn't have any rights, that means they couldn't own property. That means they couldn't vote. That means they didn't have any say. They were basically worse than slaves. Ooh, did I say that?
Ooh. Technically, word of slave. Ooh.
So if that is the case, then wouldn't that make them, not by our definition and not by our wording, wouldn't that make them third-class citizens?
Yes, and by definition of the census, what would their status be? Could that status be black by definition of the census? I think I hear the bombs going off this rising.
He says no, but technically it is convicted felons, though. Y'all, he said y'all win.
Because convicted felons, you lost your rights. You had rights and you lost it once you got convicted. We talk about a group that has never had the right to have anything. To speak, to own, had no worth whatsoever. Until what, 1920? So I advise y'all go back and look at 1920 and see what really happened. See what laws really came in. We didn't become black until what, 1920? That's when the black status got stuck on us.
Mm-hmm.
1920. And at this time, didn't the mulatto status disappear from the census? But before this, what did it say? You had white, black, and mulatto. And what was the mulatto class? Do we remember?
I think it was anybody that had black blood, one drop.
One drop. They said one drop. And depending on who came out to see you and how they looked at you and viewed you, they can still label you W for white, I for Indian, MU for mulatto, B for black, and in rare cases, a Negro.
And wasn't there a term that said that they could, if they could pass? How do you pass for somebody else? You have to do what? You have to look like them, right? That
Yep,
means if a person can walk around, they can pass for another race. That makes them ambiguous. So that means it's left up to an individual's judgment.
yep.
And depending on how the light spectrum, how the light hits your eyes and how your eyes operate, they may be lighter to you than what they actually appear, which basically means you would classify them as somebody that's quote unquote white.
You gotta leave your eyes to judge who you think I might be. Makes you think, huh? Now, when you go back and you look at a lot of these rebellions and stuff that went on in history, start looking at the population who was there. Relook at, like I was saying, relook at Baker's Rebellion. But when you're looking at the large population of so-called white women who didn't have rights, that didn't have say-so, that was stuck there,
And
and
how did many of them get into our tribes in the first place? Let's be honest. Let's be real,
let's
Indians.
go there.
Let's be
Yes,
real,
Indians, how
Indians.
did they get there?
How did they get there? When we
The
were
Indian
trading,
man traded for 'em.
right? When we was trading, when we was going to all these other countries and continents, and we were trading, we had we had a multitude of currency to choose from as to what to trade. We could trade jade, gold, silver,
We
copper.
had all the choices.
We had all the choices. What did they have? Because if you look, they got everything from us. So what else could they have to trade?
Of value. What could it be? Let me see. 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 What didn't we have over here? Ooh, could it be? Jump
We
into
didn't have.
Lucifer.
We needed some labor.
We
We needed
needed some
somebody
work
to do the
done.
work. Because you
Yeah,
got to realize there were a lot of tribes. There were a lot of tribes whose women were not only leaders but sat on the council and made decisions.
yeah. So who was doing the work? If the men is out hunting and all this and that, who was doing the domestic work? Who was sent here as domestic workers? Because it definitely was not us.
Right, Michael? He says, and the feminist white women use the color women to promote their racist agenda. Exactly. Now you're starting to put the puzzles together. Now you're starting to put the pieces together. What they say, what do you say? What's how to say it? Saying hell has no fury than a woman scorned.
Then a woman scorned. What is scorned? Let's really, what's scorned, y'all? Blotted out, bleached, faded, pale. What's scorned? Oh, no, he didn't. Yes, I did.
You have to start. You're right, Fred. We have to get back to asking the right questions because at one particular time, white and black were statuses. They were not. They were not colors. Think about when Walter Plecker said there are only two races, white and black. And if things started shifting and your status was determined by whether or not you were a landowner or not, how were you classified? And if you didn't own any land and you were an indentured servant, couldn't you be classified as a slave? Or what if you were a landowner that was in debt? Did they make you a white slave? I'm just asking. Because why, in a sense, is what they ask if you own property or not? And what difference would it make what the race of your children were if there was an argument or if there was a debate, a possible debate on inheritance?
If there's only two.
Because if you are a mulatto child and your father is Indian and your mother is not, and the land goes through the mother, then who gets the land? These aren't my laws. I didn't make this up.
No,
Our
sir.
ancestors did this.
Yes, sir. Dun, 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 dun. So by that definition, this woman that has no rights, no say so or anything, could she get that property? Will the male-driven society at this time allow that to play out? Let's dig deeper.
And if you go back and read some of the books, a lot of the colonizers were perplexed at the reverence that we had for our women and how they were in position. Think about it, because their women never had rights.
Never. They came here seeing women rulers here, councils here, men and
They
women.
also got their butts kicked by some women.
Yeah. I mean, study and break down European culture. How in their history have they always viewed women? Their women have always been second-class citizens to them. Again, this is not my saying, my thoughts. This is their own words.
Lieberson brought up a great point. He said property owners was the only one able to vote at that time. And if these women didn't own property, they could never vote.
Exactly.
But isn't it true that we not only did the men own property, but the women own property that were Indians? I mean,
Yeah.
that's true, isn't it? So who would be the only ones that didn't have any rights at that particular time?
Your so-called white women labeled black. Ooh. Because simple, Negroes had rights. That's the one thing that when we be reading this history that everybody keep forgetting. In the 1800s, Negroes had rights, ownership. We was running things. The census even tell you that.
Your own census will tell you that, because many of us have found our ancestors that owned property. And some of our ancestors actually had servants.
Yep. And what were them servants? Just because you see a B on that census, stop using your eyes. I'm going to give it to him 100. Stop using your eyes when you see B, when you see that W. Stop using your eye. Even sometimes you got to be careful with Negro, because they told you that a person with one drop of your blood, deemed on who came out to the house and how they felt, they could have labeled you a Negro. Eyes got us all jammed up.
And we have to look at this. We have to look at this from the standpoint of everything that we had in the beginning, and everything that we did in the beginning was taken away and done from us. So we end up having originally our ancestors had these women that had no rights as servants, as domestics, and then in the turn of the century, the 19th century, what started happening? These same women started doing what to our women?
Using them to put their narrative in the front. It's written. Come on, we've seen it. They used the Aboriginal woman to get their rights to vote. They hijacked the whole so-called, I'm going to just use the name for the movement, the whole called Black Power movement of the 70s. Who hijacked that? Wasn't it the feminist movement? Isn't it that fist in the air that used to represent our people? What does it represent now? Who hijacked that? Can we go through Black Lives Matters? Can we go to the your LBGQ element of P? I mean, does the list go on and on and on? What about was the one so-called pro-black organization that we did about 2-3 months ago, where the 2 European women were funneling all the money? Come to find out they sponsored it.
So what's the so what's the one group that we forget? So think about it. If you don't have any rights and you get your rights later, you get your rights last. What are you technically classified as today? In a broad sweeping statement.
Yeah.
Because what are you technically classified? If you were once misrepresented or you had no representation, what are you classified as?
Ain't you a minority?
These women are minorities.
Don't we have a whole lot of programs in this country that they tell you that they put together to benefit minorities?
Exactly.
Don't we have affirmative action? Affirmative action.
That was for them. That wasn't for us. Golden Moon got it right on the head. He said civil rights was really about the feminist movement. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is we was listening to the word black and applying it to our skin color, and it had nothing to do with your color. The word confused you. It was a status. White women are black. Sound crazy, but yeah.
So now let's move into the 60s when we have the ability to do what?
Self-identify.
Self-identify. So we were being guided in how to self-identify. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud.
And I'm proud. All this came before the ability to self-identify. Remember, in history, we did not become black in legal terms until 1920. When your women's movement started getting their rights. Somebody made a deal.
So aren't they minorities? They are minorities, aren't they?
Yes, they are the last minority group. They have always been minorities. And how Golden Moon said, how they said that all the programs that say minorities, affirmative action, look at who benefited the most on it. They tell you women, a large amount of women got sent to college. Yes, they did. But you need to pull the veil back and see who. Open up these laws and start reading them. Stop looking. Stop using your eyes to see color of skin. That whole color test will jam you up.
What's one of the biggest ways to get an infusion of land based off of representation? If you can elevate the status of an individual group that never had any rights, and then you end up now you have more representation, because most people don't realize the representation wasn't there, so that we making assumptions. I know I did. And if you go back and do the history, you look at what happened after World War II, what they call the baby boom era. That's when all these women started to go to work, right? And when the war was over, they were more domesticated and stayed in the house, right?
Yep.
Who was working for these women? Our women were working for these women, and that started in the late 20s. And if you think I'm not telling the truth, go back and look at some of the movies from the 20s. Didn't somebody win an award? Who was the first melanated woman to win an Academy Award, and what was she playing? She's playing the maid, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Isn't that the time? See, people keep wanting to see these 1800s as all women being maids. No. See, us and them roles, 1920s. We were doing the steam presses, the industrial time, because we went to the cities to pick up a lot of these jobs and stuff and leaving the country. So we started picking up a lot of these servant and service jobs. Study the history. 1920s, 1930s, study it. Remember, right before this is Tulsa, Oklahoma. What were our ancestors doing to get that wealth? Look at the industries that we were running.
Antonio has a great question. He says, my concern goes even further into indigenous history. How do we know that history wasn't manipulated by rivaling tribes who do we trust? That's the reason why you need to know who you came from. That's the reason why
Exactly.
you need to know what tribe you belong to. Because once you know what tribe you belong to you know exactly what you did and what
Exactly.
everybody else did. Because the tribes know. The tribes know, like I used to say, the tribes know who the horse thieves were. They know
Hmm.
who the traders of the waterways.
Yep. They know.
They know who originally brought these women over here. They know.
They know.
You,
They know.
you can't correct the status if you don't know your status.
They know. They know.
And as you start to get with your tribes and you start talking to them, they'll tell you the truth. They know. They have it in writing. I promise you that.
Facts.
She made a great point. She said civil rights was also about forcing indigenous people to want to amalgamate in order to receive fair treatment, as we
Yeah.
did not force courts to honor separate but equal, which gave them a foothold.
Hmm.
Remember, they think think about go back to some of the marches. There are a lot of women in these marches, but there are a lot of women in these marches that had this classification of black. They weren't black. Well, they weren't the color of brown.
Yeah. Even look back at, yeah, like you said, look at Martin Luther King when he was marching for civil rights. It was the civil rights movement. Really pay attention to the people that's behind it. Really pay attention to the people that's working side by side him. I mean, really. I'm talking about before the Poor People's Campaign. So a whole lot of, let me hush.
Go do some also while you're doing this research. Go do some research on land trust, the Merrill Act.
Yeah, look that up. And while y'all doing that on trust, I would
Do
advise
some
some of
some
y'all
more.
to start looking up antitrust laws. Please do. Just a note. Libra Sun said it first started by converting our people into citizens for employment and commerce. That was second. What first started was we got greedy. Like TMA said, listen, we got to face the music. We put ourselves in this situation. Our ancestors started trading and bringing people over here that they had no business bringing over here. The way we treated a particular class set this baloney off. We need to stop pointing at everybody else and use that thumb and take responsibility for our own actions on what we had to do in this part.
Yeah, because we created this mess. Because at one particular time, if you go back and do the research, they weren't allowed to come over here. They only came over if you believe the history. They say Columbus came over here, De Soto came over here with interpreters. Who were those interpreters? Where were they from?
Mm-hmm. Who were they? They couldn't have been from over there interpreting languages from here.
Can't nobody come on your block without
Your
somebody
permission.
giving them street cred, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Who you
who
think they
gave
get
them
that from?
bread? I
Who you
don't care
think they
what the
get
king
that
and
from?
queen said. The king and queen can say go all you want. What allowed the rulership over here to allow these people to even come up on shores? The ships that they had right then, you couldn't bring that big boat up on the shore back then. No, they had to get off on a smaller rowboat, holding up to 8 people, 6 to 8 people. So we supposed to believe 6 to 8 people rowed up on the beach and slaughtered everybody. Oh, not to mention they didn't have gunpowder or nothing at the time. What they looked at everybody and wiped them out? Somebody played a hand in this. Come on, we can't have it both ways. We're gonna have to accept the responsibility that our ancestors played in this as well.
Michael George says pale akin Negropean women got affirmative action started businesses all over America. And if you're paying attention, there is a surge of women-owned businesses.
And who's the owners of them? Hmm.
And who sit on their board? It
Nah,
ain't
nah,
us.
nah.
It ain't us. Somebody's double dipping.
Yes, for real. I mean, like I said, relatives, don't take what we say to be factual. Research it, look it up. Be shocked just like we was over the weekend. Like, what the? Like, ooh, somebody, ooh. Facts, LJ. We got to get it right this time. And to me, I may be wrong, but I think the first thing to getting it right this time is by us accepting the part that we played in this mess.
First sign of leadership is accepting responsibility for everything that goes on around you.
Yeah, let's stop playing the victim card all the time. Yes, some wrongs were done, but I believe in the creator. And if we went through certain things in our time, because we had something to do with this wrong as well, we ain't as innocent as we want to say it. We can't be as innocent as we want to play. We had to do something.
We can't walk around saying that we these very powerful people, and all of a sudden we woke up and we were put in perpetual bondage. In order for us to do that, we had to have had a hand in it. We had to.
Exactly.
And I will give you another hint. It wasn't just one tribe. It was multiple tribes.
Exactly.
And you also got to look at it this way. And Bones brought up the great question this weekend. What happened to the melanated children that they never seem to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of melanated children created. Remember, the story is not told from history standpoint. The story has been flipped on its head. What they told you actually didn't happen the way that they told you.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, our women being raped and abused and things of that nature. Did some of that happen? Yes, some of that happened, but they got that from somebody.
Yeah. Who?
Us.
Exactly. Because what women didn't have rights? What woman you can jump on and do whatever you wanted to do, and it was cool.
Because she was your property.
And who was bringing them here and doing it?
We were.
Don't take our word for it. Do your research. Really do your research and dig. And take the lens of color off. Stop looking at people when they be saying black and all this. Stop looking at a person's skin tone. Remember, it's a status at this time. It's only a status at this time when they're using these terminologies. Race is a construct. It isn't real. So it can't be applying to race. And Free hit it right on the head. The soccer mom or the CEO. She's the one that can go back and forth and be either one at any given time. When the Aboriginal woman placements were planning and they pushed her to the back of the bus.
Antonio said it best. He said something happened in our black community. He said same thing happened in our black community. Today we still being sold out and misguided by those who are supposed to be our relatives. Yeah, it still goes on today. It happens in every facet. It happens in the neighborhood. It happens in the community. It happens on YouTube. They can't do nothing without our assistance.
Facts.
And then those that are doing the assisting are being influenced by particular minorities. And I'll leave it at that. Just like, is anybody old enough to remember what the original meaning of snitching is? I'll wait. The original meaning of snitching. If you're old enough to remember the original meaning of snitching, you would understand that it has absolutely nothing to do with the meaning of snitching today. Who changed that meaning and why?
Yeah, because people got to remember, I drop it on them. Snitching was you getting caught for doing a crime and telling because you got caught and somebody else got away. That's the original snitching. Now you came in my neighborhood and you did something, killed my neighbor, killed the innocent youth, and I informed the authorities. That's telling. You understand? Because I had nothing to do with that crime that you did. I made no gain, nothing whatsoever. I'm minding my business, and your actions had a effect on me. Snitching is me and you went to go do something. You got away. I got caught, so I told on you. That's snitching. Let's get back on code.
And depending on where you live, if you didn't tell the police, it's because you handled yourself because of the way that the gun laws were. But if you lived up north where the gun laws are more strict, you better tell. Because if you end up killing them or shooting them, and you don't have the laws, the right to bear arms like you're supposed to, now you going to jail. So how does snitching
Facts.
become? How does snitching go from that to what it is now?
I
Somebody
wonder,
changed the meaning.
and I wonder
Why
why.
though? Hip hop community.
Yeah, stop the snitching on the shirts and in the music. But hold on, they had you thinking Free Willie. But Willie just drove by the school and killed two innocent children. But you mad at the person that told that snitchy was that Willie pulled the gun. Really? Really? Forget that there was two innocent youth that had nothing to do with Willie's crime or what Willie wanted to do that day, who lives were taken early, but we gonna wear shirts that say Free Willie, stop the snitching. You don't sit down somewhere with that. Man, almost got emotional for a second. But foolery, I ain't gonna lie, that was the dumbest stuff I ever heard in the hood. At that point, I used to be like, man, we some dumb people when we was going through that phase. For real.
Interesting. Just a thought. Which basically, and it goes back to say that the same thing that happened then is the same thing that happened today. Our communities are being infiltrated by people who look like us but don't care about us and are in it for personal gain because of greed.
Facts.
It happens in every community or every organization. That's why I always tell people who can vouch for you.
Who knows you? Who
Because if
are
you're not
you?
right, because if you're not willing to vouch for that person that you bring on and that you introduce me to, then both of y'all got to go. Because I'm not gonna trust my eyes.
No, my
And
eyes can deceive me.
nor yours.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a third party.
Yes.
Who are you vouching for this person? Because if you vouch for that person and I vouch for you, now we have an agreement. But if you're not willing to vouch for that person, you get upset because I'm asking you to vouch for that person. Where's the problem? Does it lie with me or does it lie with you? I'm the problem because I need to make sure this person is on the up and up and this person is legitimate and this person's not going to harm me or the people that I'm associated with or the people that trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the problem?
And think
Okay.
about it. The society that we live in now, our people actually think that way. Because you do the things to protect you and yours and you go about it the right way, your own community look at you like you backwards. What? Yeah, we got to stop this buffoonery. I know Sellout said it. We don't believe you. You need more peoples. I mean, if the eyes were so good, why would even the creator tell you get a judgment of peers? Ain't that multiple people? Just saying though. Even we're smart enough to know don't use one set of eyes to judge a man or a woman. Don't we use court systems and juries, even our ancestors, councils of multiple eye sets, because we don't trust one set, multiple parties in the room? I'm just saying though, what is counsel?
That's what our ancestors used and have always used. And if you're not using counsel and you're just making these laws arbitrarily based off of your feelings, then you are in violation of your own constitution. Don't believe me? Go look it up. That's what's happening to the Cherokee Indians right now. That was the reason why so I'm gonna say so-called freedmen because they were never freedmen. They were Indians
Mm,
that were being discriminated against by their own people, the
yeah,
mulattoes.
the
Okay, that's what
mulatto
it's supposed to be.
Cherokees. And let me put this out here. Mulatto do not mean or represent what we think it means today. This is what we must remember. You understand? What we consider mulatto today, some people say high yellow, red. No. In the 1800s, that's a Negro. A mulatto is anybody that had a parent of a Negro that they can deem you that. So meaning that I can still have the pale skin, but I had the dark curly hair. What would they label me, TMH?
Mulatto.
I can be light enough to maneuver in the European culture, but because one of my parents was a Negro, what would I still be called?
Depending on which parent it was, you could be a mulatto
Or my father, right?
or your father, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Now do you see why we say the eye test will mess you up? Because the person today that you're calling a white European in 1800 could have been a mulatto. Let that marinate.
And please don't misunderstand that we're saying you're supposed to quote unquote hate anybody. We're just breaking things down and giving you something to think about based off of the way things were presented and how we're being misled.
Yes, that's all we're saying. No hate here. Love all the creations the same, equally. Treat me fairly, I treat you fairly. Do unto me as I do unto you. We're just uncovering the stories that was told to us, digging for the truths. No shovels a day, backhoes and cranes.
Antonio said they use the same method to determine if religions are legitimate or not. Have to have multiple witnesses confirming the accounts. You can't walk out and say blah blah blah. Yeah, that's a cult.
By the full definition of it.
If
You know,
one person is making all the rules for an organization, that's a cult or a dictatorship.
yep, cult of dictatorship. Bingo. So again, do the research. Just don't scratch the surface, knock the surface completely at the ballpark. Leave no stone unturned. All dust should be removed. Let the truth shine through. Don't need you to hold it up. It just needs us to uncover it so it can shine on its own, stand on its own. And that's what we do here.
So if you look at so if you so now that you are able to see clearly, or you have clear vision or clairvoyance, at the top of the United States pyramid hierarchy is the quote unquote colonizer man. At the bottom of the pyramid is the colonizer woman, and everybody else is in the middle. So let's not let the silent minority be silent anymore. Let's look at things for what they are and realize people are taking advantage of certain statuses because they can. Doesn't a statistics support that there are more women that graduate from college and get degrees than men?
Yes, there is. Been that way for ever since affirmative action, ever since the civil rights era. Look it up.
So so let me guess. So which minority group has the highest rate of graduation in doctoral degrees? I wonder.
Hmm. Is it white women?
Ding 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 ding.
By George, give myself a prize.
Now I say that, and I say it from that standpoint is because you got to realize the same way that our people were indoctrinated, the Indians, the African Americans, the Negroes, the Latinos, everybody was under the same indoctrination. So when we go do these speaking engagements and we talk to individuals about certain scholarships, there are these white women that say, well, I don't classify because I'm not a minority. They're under the same assumptions that we are. Some people know and some people don't. But once they get exposed to the information, then they find out. And then they
Mhm.
take advantage of the information that they are given. You know that saying, knowledge is power? That's a false statement. Applied knowledge is power.
I was just about to say it. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't apply that knowledge, you just wasted time.
Applied knowledge is power. So how are you applying the information that you have? Or are you just making yourself a great Jeopardy candidate? I'm just saying. I'm just asking.
Come on down.
So now with this information that you've been exposed to, you should be able to have a clearer understanding of what's going on today in real time with our people and how the silent minority has had a major effect and still has a major effect on our people. Look at our entertainment industry.
Bingo. Sports industry. Bingo. I mean, every place where you at, what do you see?
And look at the treatment of our melanated women. Our melanated women are the only group of people in the United States that are unprotected. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
That was by design. Why?
Why do you why do you think they devise programs to encourage the melanated woman to keep the melanated man out the house to receive certain benefits? Take everything that you heard this morning and apply it. Start following the crumbs. Start putting the missing links together to this chain.
And again, this is something that we started and we perpetuated. So we're not placing blame. We just have you look at it for what it is.
Correct. This is not a blame game. This is not point the finger hour.
Because I can't allow you to come in and disrespect my significant other unless you can't come in and disrespect my significant other unless I open the door or invite you in.
And let you do it, and you keep doing it because you're used to doing it and getting away with it. And who bought them in the door again?
We did.
Dang.
We did. First, we went and got them.
Gonna have a talk with one of my great uncles.
There were certain tribes that would keep other waterways, and we let them. We let them. We went first. We went and got them because they were trade commodities, and then we started inviting. We started inviting their counterparts over here. We get we vouch for these. We vouch for these colonizers. How about that? I'm gonna say it again. Some of us vouch for these people. So the people that did this
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it in real time. The people that did
Uh-huh.
this to us were allowed to do it because somebody vouched for them. Somebody said they good.
Facts. And I don't care how you feel. We need to start getting out our feelings and dealing with reality. A group of our people, not just one. I'm with TMH, not just one, because they came different places. They
That's
had
right.
different dealings and different trades with different people. I mean, it's documented. So a couple of these tribes sold out for this. That's what they wanted. Ain't nobody twist their hand for it.
You know, proof that the Constitution was copied from the Iroquois. Salem Witch Act. Who taught them women to be witches?
Yeah, who taught them? Who else could teach them the herbs of the land? What cure what? What what's gonna make you feel better? What not to drink and eat because it'll make you feel bad? Come on, man. Let's start back using critical thinking.
Who told them about the Olmec heads? Who told them about the statues? Who told them about this stuff? Who sent these people to these places so they can see it? They didn't just
Mm-hmm.
stumble upon this. They didn't just stumble upon this stuff. We had to show them. We vouch for these people.
And Antonio, I feel you when you say we so used to the pain we don't know how to let it go. But how can we do that when the majority of the pain we're the causes of it? That's why I said we have to start with taking responsibility for the actions that our ancestors have played a part in. That's why genealogy is the key, tying back into your tribe so we can start fixing the damages that we did. These wounds are still there. And we can't be sitting here hollering about, oh, somebody need to treat us fairly and do this and do that. And we're not trying to make amends or find out what part we play in this. To this day, no nation can just walk up on another nation and enforce its will on it. Let's study history. There's always somebody else inside of that nation that's being invaded that works along with the invading nation for it to happen. History does not lie, it just repeats itself. And on that note, TMH, any closing statements? Grand Rising Carpet Indio, Grand Rising everyone that came in and elects the last 20 to 30 minutes. Let it run a little bit longer to make up for the time for starting late this rising. So on that note, I'll leave you with this. Take the time out. Research. Do your genealogy. Find out who you are. Find out where you come from. Find out what part you or your tribe play in this madness. And let's come together and let's start building our nation back. Let's
Exactly.
take accountability for the parts that we played in this. Let's stop always trying to be the victim.
That's facts. That's facts. That's facts. Start
Any
asking the right questions. Ask
mm-hmm.
the right questions. Don't just accept the first answer. Dig deeper. Like Bone says, get that shovel, that backhoe. Don't just accept something on his face. I mean that's even from us. Do the research. I don't have a problem with being wrong. I will go on there and say I was wrong. Give credit to whoever brought the information. I don't have a
Most
problem with that.
definitely.
We have to get this right. Fair point blank in discussion. We have to get this right, and we need to do so. Whatever wrong was said, whatever wrong was done, we need to correct it and take responsibility for it. Because that's the only way that's going to happen. So that's all I got.
Right. So on that note, it's been another great Grand Rising show. Hope all is well for the rest of Monday today. Um, until then, see you for another great Grand Rising. Peace.
She a lady in the streets, but in the bedroom, she's a nasty girl. I see her so sweet. I love the freaky, yeah, the nasty girl. She's a lady in the streets, but in the bedroom, she's a nasty girl. I see her so sweet. I love the freaky, yeah, the nasty Next one in the shower. She a lady in the streets, but in the bedroom, she's a nasty girl. I say I'm so sweet. I love the freaky, yeah, the nasty girl. She's a lady in the streets. She's a nasty girl. I say I'm so sweet. I love the freaky, yeah, the nasty Now she's stuck, she's she a lady in the streets, but in the bedroom.